Hello everyone. So we've basically finished all our material for the course. Hopefully you guys are well on your way in the presentation, probably concluding everything. So to bring everything to a close, I'd just like to do a bit of a review. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over all the material that we've covered in a sense that I'm going to kind of go over, we covered this topic, and that topic, etc. I'm not going to go into specific detail because you probably don't want to sit through all of that and it would take way too long. What I'm going to do is instead create a forum after this video, and anybody that wants me to do like a specific review on something, just ask in that forum, and I'll either explain it or I'll put together a little video to show that again. So for example, let's say you don't remember how to insert text boxes or something like that in Word, and so if you want me to review that, then I'll do one on that. But if you don't have a question, then I'll assume that you know it, or you're reviewing it on your own. Okay, so let's get started. So going from the very beginning, so when we started Microsoft Word, we talked about efficiency. Okay, so let's just go. Okay, so in terms of efficiency, the better you can do things, the more time you'll save, and the more you'll be able to do them well. And this is important for when you do your final exam, because the way your final exam is set up is there's going to be a lot of questions, and the more efficient you are in doing the questions, the more you'll be able to get done. Now, having said that, you won't have to do all of the questions in the final exam, so don't expect to finish all of them, but the more you do, definitely the better it is. So with the Microsoft Suite, given enough time, you can pretty much figure anything out. You can go and see like YouTube videos, tutorials, and whatnot, but all that takes time. When you get good, can you say get good? Yeah, whatever. If you get good in these Microsoft things, then you know how to do them very quickly, and you can do your work a lot better. Okay, so that talks everything from, we talked about shortcut keys, we talked about clicking, and just generally being well practiced with the software, so knowing where things are. If you need to create a text box, you know exactly where to go. When you need to do find and replace, you know exactly where to go for that. When you need to edit a chart, you know exactly how to do that, and you don't have to spend a lot of time searching for online help and whatnot. Okay. We talked about copying and pasting, how to remove formatting, doing the paste options, keep text only, that sort of thing. You should definitely know that it's a very useful tool to use. We talked about the use of the headings, the styles, also something that's very important, because when you use these styling things in Microsoft Word, it lets the document understand what things are, and in doing so, it can actually do work for you and make your work more efficient. Okay, so styles, very, very useful. Okay, we also talked about fonts, important concepts. This should be something that you carry with you throughout your university time and beyond. Okay, being familiar with fonts should be a very useful thing to you from now on. Okay, so that basically covers the first lecture. Let's pull up the next. Okay, so we talked about paragraph options. These are all the things from, let me just pull up Word, like your indents, alignments, bullet points, all those options in there you should be fairly comfortable with them by now. Things like line spacing, paragraph spacing, knowing the difference between line spacing and paragraph spacing and being able to use them effectively should be familiar to you. Okay. So yeah, we went over the different buttons, we went over bullet points, multi-level lists, how to create those, how to modify those. And in this exercise, when we did modifying how a list appears, it's not just for lists, but understanding that a lot of things in Microsoft Word and in all the Office package, that many things are very customizable. Okay, so do remember that it is very flexible, and you often have to do it for many different things. Okay, so line spacing, paragraph spacing, page layout, columns, margins, so double column, triple column, margins being those spaces on the side, as opposed to indents. Indents you can do with individual paragraphs, where margins are for the entire document. We also talk about find and replace. You should be able to use that. It often comes in very handy when you're looking for many cases of the same word, something like that. Okay, practice. Okay, so let's move on to the next part, reviewing a document. So this is something that you should know, especially for your future work. Reviewing a document nowadays, there's a lot of collaboration, and it's very important to be able to use this effectively. So turning on the track changes and also using comments in the correct way. Okay, apart from that, there's also things that you can do with self-reviewing. For example, spelling check, grammar check, changing the language of your text, that sort of thing, using a thesaurus. Yeah, all those things should be familiar. Okay, so also knowing when it's appropriate to make a comment and when it's appropriate just to make a change. We talked about that as well too. Okay, moving along. Insert. We talked a lot about inserting. First of all, inserting pages, cover pages, blank pages, that sort of thing. Header and footer. Don't get confused between heading and header. Header is the thing that's on top of every page. A heading is something like introduction, chapter 1, chapter 2. That's a heading. Okay. Inserting hyperlinks. We went over that as well too. So you can link to things on the web. You can link to other documents. You can link to parts inside your document. Okay, inserting equations if you need to insert pi or delta or sigma or whatever. Okay, math symbols, etc. Okay, and then we moved on to text boxes. We use this extensively. It's used everywhere in the Microsoft suite. Even in PowerPoint, these things are actually just text boxes. And so you should be very familiar with that. You had assignments and projects dealing with that. Flowcharts, we inserted shapes, arrows, things like that. And with inserting things, remember that things do exist in layers, so you can send them back, bring them forward, stack them on top of each other, and change the order of how they are layered. Okay, so do know that. Okay, then we talked about how to format these things that we insert. So when you insert a text box, you can actually format the actual text, creating word art. Okay, so you can change the background color, you can change the thickness of the font, you can make the font 3D, you can change the shape of the text box, all those sorts of things in that format tab when you do insert an object. Okay, same with pictures. When you insert a picture, that format tab comes up. We also dealt with different types of text wrapping when you insert a picture. So square text wrapping, tight, in front, behind text, inline. Okay. And the various tools that you can use when inserting objects. So you can use a selection pane to select certain things, turn on, turn off visibility of various objects that you insert. we can arrange objects, we can align them, distribute them, so get them nice and centered, get them nice and aligned properly. So all those different skills. Okay, so table of contents. If you set up your documents correctly with heading styles, then table of contents are very easy. And we also practice how to modify the style of the table of contents, going back to that concept that many things in Microsoft are customizable. We also went through bibliographies, how to make bibliographies, citations, inserting sources, and organizing them inside Word. So that about covers it for Word. With Excel, I think when we started Excel, most of the stuff is already on Moodle. Let me just check which part we actually started Excel on Moodle. Okay, so functions. Okay, so when we started Excel, the very basic stuff of getting yourself to understand what Excel looks like, rows, columns, naming your cells, that sort of thing, alignment, basically all these options right here, merge and center, things like that. We also covered conditional formatting. You might want to review that. If you don't remember, you can highlight certain cells depending on a certain condition that you want. Okay. I think that was oh yeah, autocomplete. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with that by now. Autocomplete can be used for any sequence of things, can also be useful for formulas that you want to apply to multiple rows or columns. Okay, resizing, moving things around, selecting cells, copying, pasting, that sort of thing. Okay. Well, you probably won't do any printing, but your different views for print layout, probably know at some point. Okay, we talked about formatting cells, the various data types. That's important to know. Dates, times, custom, accounting, fractions, that sort of thing. Decimal places for numbers. You can increase decimal places, decrease decimal places, and do be careful if you decrease decimal places, it will round your numbers. Okay. Right. So we talked about that. Okay. We talked about dealing with large sets of data and your sorting and filtering that you can do to help you organize your data, create subsets. Sometimes you have to copy the data from once it's sorted or filtered and paste it in a different location in order to work with it better, because we said that with filtering, it doesn't actually remove the other data, it actually just hides them. So if you don't want the unwanted data, you'll have to copy and paste the data that you do want into a different place, and that's often useful when you're making charts, things like that. So all this is often like intermediate work. So you're getting like an intermediate set of data that you need to copy and paste somewhere else so that you can use it later on. Okay, so we talked about separating it into sheets, renaming those sheets. Do rename your sheets. Don't just leave them as sheet 1, sheet 2, something descriptive. Same with tables, stuff like that. Always be descriptive. Tables need to have names. Charts need to have names. Well, not names, titles is what I mean. So always put titles on your things to help the viewer understand your data. Okay.